game just got away from them, with the turnover to start and things like that. But they played the same way they played all year. They just had one bad game. They've been a tough team offensively and defensively all year and done a good job not turning it over, and their defense has kept people from scoring.
How do you keep the guys focused from thinking that is where the norm is for them and getting them ready to be up for this?
Yeah, it's not too hard because, the guys will see tape on them from the whole year. And even if you go back and watch our game, that was a lot more, that was much more competitive than the score looked. You get 38 points and things like that, but you go to some of the turnovers that happen, some big plays, but it was a lot harder of a game than it seemed. And all the other games that you watch on tape, it looks like you're playing a real good team, and it looks like you're playing a team that has the record that they do.
You told about Akello the other day and everybody stepping up. How much of that is something you've really instilled, and how much of that is the character of the guys you have on the team?
Yeah, it's something you talk about a lot because it's your goal, but you can't just talk people into being that way. They got to actually be that way, and guys are extremely competitive. Everyone wants to help and contribute, but I think it has to do with that our team really likes each other. I know how close Akello and Mosley are. I know how much they all respect each other. Our team, I feel like, is as tight of a team as I've been on, and I think that's what helps us in situations like that.
You made a decision at right cornerback?
Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea, but I'm not going to tell you guys till I have to, which I never will, so someone else probably will.
In terms of what you saw out of D Ford coming back last week, just how did that affect how the Vikings tried to block you guys, and how did that free up the pass rush for other guys?
I think you guys could probably notice the same thing that Minnesota noticed. Just his get off on the edge opens up a lot of spots for everyone else and for himself, and then you put him inside, and you can do some different games and things like that. But D Ford is explosive, knows how to get to the quarterback, and the more out there, whether they get the stats or not, helps everyone else.
Did you make a conscious decision maybe that Kittle wasn't going to be as focused on in that game? And do you go into games sometimes making a decision like that on him?
No, not really with guys personally. I always watch the team we're going against and how they play and how they try to win. And then we think of what we have to do to not allow them to do that. So we knew going into that game that it was going to be hard to beat that team without getting a bunch of runs in, and we were able to stick with it. And the way the defense played and how good our tight ends are at blocking and stuff, and how we did on third down, just allowed us to stick with it. And it's just nice that, not that I would listen anyways, but we got a bunch of guys that are. They're focused on the right things. They're not worried about stuff that doesn't matter. So they're just all out there trying to win the game, and it's pretty nice as a coach. You don't have to deal with guys coming up to you throughout the game like, hey, get me involved here, get me involved there. Our guys just want to win, and we've done that a lot of different ways. And we've done that running the ball, we've done it throwing the ball, we've done it on special teams, we've done it on defense. So I think we've done it almost every way possible this year, and I think our players have really bought into that.
Kittle never suggests passing plays, but he suggests run plays. Does he suggest good run plays, and do you follow his advice?
The run plays he suggests are kind of half thoughts. They're more to how he can hit someone. Let me go get this guy, and then I got to figure out what run play allows him to do that. But he knows his run spot, and you got to think of how to tie that into all 11.
When you say these guys like each other, Joe Staley was saying the same thing after the game the other night, and he was saying how unusual he felt it was given his other experiences. You've been with a lot of teams. Is this team, does it have a different vibe?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. That was something that I felt a little bit when we went on a run in Atlanta with our team. It's something that we've been trying to establish here, and I felt like we had that a lot better than I expected in the first couple of years, and it didn't result in winning, which was always disappointing. But that's something we always talked about. Man, we got the right guys. They won't stop working. They don't point fingers, and when you go 4-12, every place usually does do that. And so it said a lot about our guys. Sometimes we almost worried, does that mean we need some worse guys because we're not winning? But we stuck with it. We brought in a few guys who were thought the same way as our other guys, and some difference makers with the pass rush, and some guys on offense too. And I feel like our team's been this way since the beginning, and when you do that and you win, it only gets stronger.
You go from 4-12 to the NFC Championship game in less than a year. How much of a springboard was essentially trading a year of reps for Jimmy for Nick Bosa?
It's definitely helped. Everything happens for a reason, and you need to get good players in to some difference makers, and Bosa's definitely been a difference maker. So I'm very glad we have him. I don't wish 4-12 on anybody, but after going through it, it was nice what it brought us.
Your time in the league, just about Aaron and his ability to bounce back. Obviously, that game that you guys had in November probably didn't go the way he wanted, but what have you learned about him and just the way he can respond in situations like that?
That he can make a throw in any situation. He's never out of the game. I think we were up 23-0 at halftime versus him, and he went and made it 23-8 after his first drive, and it's 23-8 halfway through the third quarter, and I think it's a tie game because of who's over there at quarterback, and we were fortunate enough, I think, the next drive to get that big play to Kittle, which made it 30-8, and then it kind of got away. But Aaron is as good of a player who's played this game. He can make every single throw. He's got a lot of players around him, and there's a reason he seems to be in this game a lot.
Kyle, following up on that, you've obviously worked with quarterbacks for a long time and probably watched them differently than everybody else. What element of his game do you think has allowed him to play at this level at 36, whatever age he is now?
That there's probably not anyone on the planet who throws better than him. There might be a couple guys that you can compare with him, but his arm talent is just unbelievable. His athletic ability is unbelievable. He's always been able to run around, extend plays, make throws from any angle, and he's a very intelligent guy who can get them in the right play, and it's hard to throw stuff at him that he's not prepared for.
Well, you mentioned the Warriors a couple times a couple days ago. You're a sports fan, but did there anything you picked up from them? Did you watch them closely about how that run went?
I wouldn't say in particular. I've always been a fan of them, and even before I got here, just watching how they play. I remember saying in Atlanta, even when we were there, that I wanted our receiver group to be similar to the Warriors, to where who knows who the starter is. They all play Andre Iguodala, things like that. I think he wasn't the starter, and then he's the conference finals or whatever it's called, the NBA championship MVP. 7 games that mattered at the end. So you think of stuff like that, and that stuff, you got an MVP, you got a defensive MVP, you just got guys who seem really not to care how it gets done. They all just go out there and ball and see where the weakness in the defense is, and wherever that ends up, that guy shoots, and that's a lot how I see offense.
Now, Joe Staley's been honest about nearly retiring, right in that range when you got here. How much has it meant to the team to have a guy like that buy in and become a leader when he was kind of,
It means a lot, just because how good of a player Joe is. When he would say some of that stuff early on, it always surprised me because I always go off the tape, and he didn't look like a guy who should be considering retirement. I thought he looked as good when we got here as he ever had, and I think he looks even better now. So that always surprised me, but I think Joe really loves football, and I don't think he was having that much fun. It's never fun when you aren't winning, and then that's what was hard for me. I thought he did buy in, and to start out 0-9 and to watch his frustration with that, but he kept doing it the right way, and then to go 4-12, and I think Joe can play, and his body's good, but I think guys do get sick of losing and stuff, but I think he's having a lot of fun playing now. I think he always has, but now with how good the team is around him and stuff, you guys would have to ask him, but hopefully he's not thinking about that as much anymore.
It was very early in your coaching career, obviously, but do you have any recollections about the 2005 draft and how it shook out with Aaron falling as far as he did?
Yeah, I remember.
What was your take on Aaron maybe pre-draft and how the process played out for him?
I was a quality control coach in Tampa Bay. They only asked me receiver questions at that time.
The game against your dad when you were an assistant in Houston, I think, once in the regular season.
What's that?
You coached the game against your dad in Houston when you were in Houston, and he was in Denver in the regular season. So what was that kind of like, and what do you think it'll be like for the LaFleurs on this stage?
It's always a little bit different just because of how close you are with the other person, and I know Matt and Mike are as close as any brothers can be, just like most people are with siblings, but it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of talk to it and stuff, but there's no feelings when that game goes on. There's no feelings when you're studying and preparing. Everyone cares about the other person, and I know if we weren't in it, I know he'd be pulling for his brother, just like when I wasn't going against my dad, I was always pulling for him. But I know when you go against each other, that stuff doesn't matter. Everyone's got a job to do, and everyone's pretty competitive and wants to win also.
Kyle, a couple of weeks ago, you said that Kenneth Bourne reminds you of your son, who I believe is 9 years old.
Just turned 10.
Could you elaborate on?
I didn't mean that as an insult. I meant that as a compliment. As KB, I heard claimed because I love my son. But no, I just meant that as in he's very innocent to a lot of things. He's just very upbeat. The way you guys see him make a great catch in a game in a divisional playoff game that's a diving catch over the middle and a huge pressure situation, and the way he gets up and does his dances and stuff, and it's like, how's the pressure not getting to him? And it's because that's exactly how he looks on Wednesday. I bet you that's exactly how he woke up out of bed today when probably ate Fruit Loops and watched cartoons. But he, I mean, the guy's just the same all the time. The pressure doesn't get to him, and he's fun to be around.
The same thing about Debo?
I mean, yeah, similar. Well, all those guys, they're football players who play like men out there in terms of they're very physical. They're not scared of the moment. But they also remind you a lot that they're kids too. And they're kind of in that spot where, I mean, I feel like I turned 40 about a month ago, so I feel like I just left the kid area also. But I think all of us got a lot of youth in them, but those guys got more than the others.
There's so much history.
Garoppolo does not get the kind of credit maybe he might deserve, even though he's just continued to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how this world works. I mean, and you'll get credit if you win a Super Bowl or an NFL MVP or something like that. I mean, I think we run the ball last week, so a lot of people are going to say that Jimmy didn't do enough. But there's lots of games this year that we haven't been able to run the ball, and we've had to win it by passing. So that's what I'm proud of with Jimmy and proud of our team, that you can't really say that we have to win a game a certain way. I think we've shown that we can win a number of ways, which shows a lot to our players. And I know Jimmy doesn't care how we win it, whether we're running it, throwing it, whether we got to do it on defense and protect the ball, or whether we got to air it out and get some points. So a lot of guys say that it doesn't bother him, but I promise it doesn't bother him. I've never had to call him in and talk to him about it. He is so locked into whatever the plan is, whatever we're doing, and he's just trying to distribute the ball.
So much history with this franchise, Kyle. How have you been able to embrace it and to maybe draw from the history of the legendary 49er teams?
I mean, I think it helps with, the age I'm in. I mean, I was born in '79, so I remember the Niners throughout the '80s growing up, and then I was here with my dad in '94 where they won that Super Bowl. So, I think just being around it, I knew exactly how special it was. But I think people from my generation also, when they think of teams, the big-time teams, I mean, it was the Niners, the Cowboys. When you got baseball, you got the Yankees and the Red Sox. And from growing up with me, and basketball was always the Bulls. A little bit before the Celtics, but in Detroit. But I think you have those teams, and that's what the Niners have always been. And, it had been a few down years, I think since 12 or whenever it was. But that does happen too. And we knew we had to build this up and get back here. But we knew how good of an organization it was. And when you do have a good organization, usually those tough times don't last if you can just stay the course and be a little bit patient.
You have a few key players on the team who came via trade. I know every trade is different, but generally, what would you say about John's ability to get you some of the players that you really needed?
John and his staff have been unbelievable. When we came here, we knew we had to go get some. There were a lot here to start with that have worked out very well, but we also knew we had a lot of hard work in front of us. And John and his staff have presented all that stuff and got us a ton of guys. And it's been great because even the big key ones that everyone knows about that have been a huge difference. But also we've had a lot of injuries this year too, where a lot of guys have had to step up, and our depth has really been challenged this year. And I think that's a credit to our personnel staff.
In retrospect, what did the Emmanuel Sanders trade do for the offense as a whole?
It gave us a big pickup when we needed it. Emmanuel came in and allowed, I think, most importantly, our other receivers to grow. I don't know how ready all those other guys were quite yet, and Emmanuel came in and took a lot of pressure off the guys right away. His first game was Carolina. I think his second was Arizona, where probably had his best game there versus Arizona, at least statistically. And during that time, it took pressure off other guys and allowed those guys to get a lot better too. And it's been great having Emmanuel in there where guys like Debo and Bourne could watch him, because I think since he's gone here, those guys have gotten a lot better.
Do you get the sense that the rest of the team kind of feeds off the energy that Kendrick and the receiver group exudes?
Yeah, I do. I think those guys are like that all the time. So they do it at practice, they do it on game day. I think our team feeds off the whole team. Whether it's our offense feeds off the defense and special teams, and our defense feeds off the special teams and offense. So it all goes hand in hand. I think we got, like I keep saying, a real close group, and position groups or which side of the ball you're on really doesn't matter.
All right, at this point in the season. Last one. At this point in the season, do you have any off-field concerns with all the extra attention, the distractions potentially that are out there? Anything concern you off the field that you're going through right now?
In terms of what?
Just in terms of media, a player, how they handle it.
No, our players have handled it pretty good all year. I know by this background and these helmets next to me, there's a lot more dog and pony show and stuff, but hopefully our players know it's just Wednesday, like it's been all year, and tomorrow will be Thursday.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
He's on his way.
What's up, everyone?
Some of your teammates, Emmanuel and Richard, have talked about how loose they feel the locker room is. Is that your take as well? And how does that compare to the good Patriot team that you were on in previous off seasons?
Yeah, well, it definitely, if you feel it in there. It's definitely a loose atmosphere, but I mean, that's kind of how it's been all year. Just guys are loose, but they're locked in at the same time, and it's a unique combination. But we have the guys that are able to do it.
Kyle just said that hopefully everybody understands it's Wednesday and tomorrow will be Thursday. Is that the feeling that you're still getting in there?
Yeah, I think guys are locked into the preparation. With the game plan going in today and everything, just guys are locked in. They're focused up, and we're in a good spot right now.
Jimmy, having played a front like you did last week against Minnesota, and you know the Packers front, as the quarterback, I mean, how good do you feel knowing your protections are all set, knowing again Pettin's going to dial up a lot of different stuff, personnel packages and things like that. But how good do you feel knowing those guys in front of you can open holes in the run game, protect you, and maybe using what they did against Minnesota as a springboard for that?
Yeah, those guys up front, they I don't know if they don't get enough credit or what it is, but they've been steamrolling people in the run game. Pass game is extremely clean for the most part, and it's just it's those five guys up front, and there's a lot of things that go into it too with skill positions, but those five guys up front, man, they've been battling it all year, and I really appreciate them for that.
Speaking of credit, do you care how much credit you get? Because it doesn't seem like you get a lot from the outside world.
As long as we win, I'm pretty happy. So as long as we win.
I mean, I realize you're obviously focused on their defense, but as a fellow quarterback, when you watch Aaron Rodgers play, what makes you go, whoa? What's impressive to another quarterback about the way he plays?
There's a lot. Aaron just the way he processes information quickly, the way he could scramble and make throws on the run. He really does it. He has a little bit of everything. And I mean, just watching his film, I love watching it to, prepare and also to learn from him and, see things that he does. And it's just, it's impressive, man. I mean, he does it at such a high level for such a long time now. It's just, you got to tip your hat to him.
Remember the first time you saw him? I mean, he's been in the league, 14, 15 years, so you were much younger.
Yeah. My first live action was when I was with the Patriots. We played him in Green Bay. And I just remember him and Jordy had they had a field day, and we're just teeing off. But it was a hell of a game, and he's an awesome guy, great competitor. So it'll be a fun atmosphere.
Jimmy, you're coming from a game against a pretty tough linebacker corps against the pass. You had an interception against them, and now the Packers have a weakness in this particular spot against the pass. How does it change for Juszczyk, for Kittle, for the upcoming game?
Yeah, it will. It kind of depends what packages they're in. They have a ton of different personnel packages. A lot of coverages, tied in with that. So they do a good job of, putting guys in different spots, and they keep mixing it up, spin the dial type of mentality. But it's just, when we get our opportunities, when guys get their numbers called, they have to take advantage of it. And I thought we did that last time we played them, and it'll be a different game this time, but we have to do the same.
Jimmy, at what point did you guys, when you guys brought in Bosa and Ford, did you, as the guy on the other side, realize that group could be special?
Man, it didn't take long. I mean, maybe a couple days into training camp, maybe. I mean, OTAs, you can't really get a true feel for it without the pads, but once we got the pads on in training camp, it was very eye-opening. Made it difficult on us in training camp and transferred over to the season, thankfully.
Jimmy, go ahead.
Do you ever have moments that I know you're watching film of the other defense, but do you ever take time to watch your defensive line?
Oh yeah, I try to. Probably started about halfway through the year. I started doing it. Just it's that complimentary football. I've always talked about it in here, but just when those guys are dominating how they are, it kind of affects how we play on offense. And when we could run the ball and do that on defense, it makes it tough to beat us.
You had the unfortunate injury last year, and now a year later, the team is on the brink of a Super Bowl. Do you think that it was a springboard to have you miss a year of experience, a year of reps, and Nick Bosa suddenly pop up on the screen?
Well, things have a way of working out, and so I always told myself it was a blessing in disguise. The ACL and everything, and we got Bosa out of it. So I mean, that's a pretty good trade-off, I guess. But it's things have a way of working out, I guess. Just this ride is crazy. You just gotta roll with the punches.
Jimmy, when you were in New England, even though you weren't playing, what are the kinds of things that helped you to what you're doing now? Obviously your starting record is what it is, very successful. And what are the things, even though you weren't playing, that
I think just I tried to see things from afar. Obviously, not being on the field, it's a little different, but just the preparation that goes into it, the atmosphere in the locker room, the atmosphere in the whole building, really just and I felt it, very similar to there. I feel it here. And it's just I'm not trying to compare the two teams, but it's just when you get into that playoff atmosphere, NFC Championship game, things get amped up, and you have to do the same.
I was just talking about how George will go up to him and request guys to go up against in the run game. How much does that aggression and just what his enthusiasm filter through the offense?
It's so unique for a guy of his caliber, in the pass game and all the amazing things that he does, that he loves the run game just as much. And the old line feeds off that, the running backs, everybody. It's contagious. And so, it's fun to be around that.
Jimmy, in these years with playing behind Brady, what are some of the takeaways that you can get to prepare for this? And have you talked to him about this game and the future, maybe Super Bowl coming up in preparation?
I haven't personally talked to him, but just things that I took away from watching him go through it and everything is just the consistency that he had throughout the entire run, whatever it was, the first playoff game, the Super Bowl. He was very consistent between all of it, and I think that just goes to your preparation throughout the week. If you're prepared going into the game, then you're going to play like that.
Off season, you did some workouts to improve your mechanics, your footwork. The process has improved in some aspect, because sometimes some accuracy issues due to the footwork. How's that for you right now in the end of the season?
How's my footwork? Yeah. I'm pretty happy with where it's at. I think with this offense, a lot of things are tied into the timing of the quarterback and receiver, and I think it's I like the progression that I'm going in. I think there's still obviously room for improvement, but I think whenever you could trend in the right direction, that's what you want to do.
When you got nicked on that second series, Jimmy, when you got nicked on that second series, were you concerned about your knee or was it the ankle, and how long did that pain take to wear off?
It was a little bit of both. I didn't really know what it was because I didn't see the guy was throwing it and just kind of felt it all on my left leg, and so it annoyed me for a little bit, but it didn't take long to go away.
You hear that it was the knee again?
Well, thankfully I got the brace on, man. So Don Joy that protected me.
You guys dominated them last time. How do you guard against being overconfident coming into this game?
I think the coaches do a great job of that. They kind of put things into perspective for us and let us see the game from a different angle when we're watching the film. And so it's no different than any other week. We're coming out here Wednesday ready to roll and preparing our ass off.
Jimmy, are there any differences that you saw from the Week 12 matchup with them compared to now? And do you have to also adjust, have it in the back of your head that we saw them the first time, there's going to be a lot of differences from what you've seen on tape just so they can throw us off?
Yeah, you always take that into consideration. You don't want to overthink that stuff too much, but whenever we hit some explosives on them and things like that, so you always have to be aware of whether in the game or at the beginning of the game they're going to change their scheme and just kind of adjust from there. Those are the in-game adjustments that I think Kyle and the whole coaching staff do great at.
Smith so challenging as pass rushers?
There's a lot. They're long. They're explosive off the ball. They kind of have some awkward movements to them, I guess, but they make it work. And so the two of them together, it's a hell of a tandem.
That Feels Great Baby T-shirt is selling like hotcakes at the store. How do you feel about that whole thing?
I feel great about it. It's just no, it's blowing up pretty quickly. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Thanks, Jimmy. We got
Thanks, guys.
Defensive Rookie of the Year. How did that feel to get that news?
Feels good. Not much celebrating going on now, though. We got a game to prepare for.
Nick, is there a different feel to this week as opposed to last week?
No, I think it's pretty similar. Just extra energy all around. Just have to bring it. Yeah.
When you had D Ford back on the field with you Saturday, what did that do for the defensive line, and how did you notice how the Vikings blockers, how they changed their scheme up with him?
They didn't change their scheme. Just having D is a mismatch for just about anybody, which opens up things for the other guys, and everybody reap the benefits.
What did you guys mean when you are lined up together next to each other, supposed to run up? What are the advantages that gives you?
Just speed. It makes the O-line think. They usually know something's up, and then we could catch them off guard with some other things. And then obviously the other side of the line has to deal with Buck and Armstead. So.
When you came to this team, you said it wasn't a 4-12 team. Obviously, Jimmy was hurt, but what made you say that about this team?
Just being a football fan last year, knowing what kind of players they had on the roster. I didn't know to this extent how good the depth was and stuff like that, but I just knew that of the top teams picking, this was definitely the most playoff-ready team.
In what ways did your cousin, Jake, influence you? I understand he worked out in Florida and I think lived with you for a while when he was preparing for the draft. How did he sort of shape your development life?
Not much. He's a great friend. We grew up together. He lived in Chicago. We would visit and just have really good times together. I wouldn't say he was a mentor to me or anything because I had my brother and my dad for that. But no, he's just a really good friend and a cousin, obviously family.
What do you think about sort of his path? I mean, you and your brother obviously were very high draft picks, and he wasn't drafted and had to kind of scrap his way to his place in the league. And what do you think about sort of that path?
It's awesome. I mean, he actually, when I was in high school, was living down in South Florida, training for the combine, living with me and my mom while he trained. So I got to see how hard he had to work to get to where he was, and how many tough years of being on the practice squad and stuff like that. So he's earned everything he's got, and I'm proud of him.
You said after that October win in LA that this was a championship defense. Did you feel it after that game specifically, or did you know that beforehand?
I mean, I'm not saying I know things in the future, but it just seemed like we were playing really good ball, and that we had everybody we needed to be one of the best in the league.
The first meeting, Balaga left the game early. He got hurt in that first game. What does he add to that? If he's healthy, what is he?
Just another really good tackle. Whenever you're a veteran, I feel like being a veteran at tackle is probably the most advantageous because just all the savvy little tricks they have. And I mean, he's faced tons of good rushers over the years, just like their left tackle, and it's going to be even more difficult with him on the field.
One last question about Chris Kasarik after the game on Saturday. How has he kept sort of the message fresh for you guys week in and week out? Does he have a different message going into every game?
Yeah, sometimes it's the same though, because sometimes the same thing needs to happen for us to win. It usually revolves around stopping the run, setting edges, stuff like that. But yeah, just being physical is probably his biggest message every week.
The 49ers have had such a great history forever. How much do you feel that history, and how much do you feel this group and these coaches and John Lynch embrace the past and the history of this greatness?
Yeah, I mean, just having guys around like Jerry Rice, just messing around before games with our receivers. Like, that's not a normal thing. And you just walk around the facility, you see the Super Bowls, you see the past players. After the game yesterday, I was having dinner at the restaurant in here, and just seeing a bunch of people that you would never expect to be a 49er fan, and they're just here because the brand is so global, and it's really cool. It's really cool to be a part of.
One last question on Jake. You mentioned the time he lived with you and your mom in Florida. Any favorite memories from that time? Did you guys?
Yeah, we went fishing. Yeah, we went fishing a lot. He's a big fisherman, so we would just go out on the dock, catch all different types of fish.
Talk about some of the stuff you do in the run game, setting at just the physicality. When you look at the Packers now on film and prepping for this game, how difficult is it to kind of stop some of the things that they try to do in the run game? Or is it somewhat similar to Minnesota's and some of the things you could work that worked against the Vikings you think could work against them?
It's definitely similar, but they have a lot of little wrinkles that they add in to try and get the edge. Their running back likes to bounce it outside. But the principles are the same. Play the same technique, same everything. We just have to be more physical.
A few of your teammates talk about how they feed off of you guys as a defensive line, that everything kind of trickles down. Is that something you guys are aware of, and do you embrace the idea of kind of setting the tone?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning of the year, we knew there was a lot invested in our room, and if this team wanted to go where we wanted to go, we would have to be a big part of it. And obviously, it's not all up to us because we've had bad games, and everybody else has picked up the slack for us. So we just need to finish this year out strong.
All right, thanks, Nick. We got Joe Staley for you guys next.
So you've seen 0-9, you've seen 4-12, and now you see those helmets and that trophy. How does this happen in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the vision of Kyle and John and what they've done here, building this roster. I mean, it's a completely new roster from when they first got here, and just having patience with it and seeing it all the way through. So all the guys that they brought in, free agency through the draft, guys that they held on, that believed in, and then everybody just executing their vision. And a lot of hard work, and we're excited to be at this point right now.
What about the culture? How much is that a part of it?
It's a huge part. You know, I think we talk about it a lot of times, and it kind of is a cliche in the NFL is the family. This is a really, really close locker room. It really is special. You know, I've been a part of my 13th NFL team here, and every year is different, and this one's really special as far as the camaraderie in the locker room. Guys really showing up to play every single week, coming to work every single day, looking to get better, and it's a special bunch.
Kind of following up on that, I'm sure you remember the reports of dysfunction between Kyle and John. I mean, that 13-3 doesn't really say that now. What do you say to those?
I don't think anybody was actually really thinking that there was any dysfunction. It's probably just a storyline at the time. So I think people want to create that narrative, but we never saw any of that, and I think it was addressed on by them, and there was never any of that here.
What's the most impactful way that Kyle has influenced that culture you're just talking about?
I think it's just the way he is. He keeps it loose. He relates really well to the players. He's a younger coach, but this also his knowledge and understanding of the game of football. You know, guys, he's a figurehead. He's obviously the head coach of the football team, and the work and preparation that he puts in, you know, that gets other guys, you want to do the same thing. If the head coach is putting all those hours, all that work into being the best he can be, that's what we have to do as players. So just his natural leadership style, the way he communicates from the day he's gotten here until now has been very consistent. It's been the same.
He's talked often about how he was a ball boy and all that stuff back in the day, and a big Niners fan. Do you get the feeling it means more to him to not only be winning, but to be doing it in this particular organization?
Maybe. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask him that. But all I do know about him is that he eats, breathes, sleeps football. I mean, the guy is football obsessed. Been football obsessed since he was born. And that's just kind of person he is. And we see that every single day. And it's cool that he's, getting that.
Joe, this is obviously your fourth NFC Championship game that you've been playing in. What do you tell some of the younger guys that really haven't been in this kind of position before and how to handle this kind of moment?
I mean, it's the same exact statement and stuff I said last week. The playoffs might seem like it's a bigger deal and there's more eyes on you, and a lot of this stuff is creates maybe some anxiety in the younger players that haven't been there. But it's the same exact game. It's the same exact thing. We're a special team, and we go out there and execute the game plan and have a great week of practice, and all that other stuff will handle itself.
So how early was it evident that Nick was a special player when you saw him on the practice field? How has his game evolved over the year?
Yeah, they kind of addressed that a lot this year, and it was pretty immediate. I mean, it was probably first or second day on the practice field, honestly, in training camp. Typically, there's some kind of, I don't know if it's, evolution or whatever, but getting used to the NFL style play and realizing that you can't just win with athleticism and, understanding blocking schemes and hand usage and all the different nuances that go into rushing a passer in the NFL. And he had that down. I mean, it was pretty evident that he was much further along than a typical rookie coming into the NFL. And, I kind of had a quote that I said last week was that it was kind of shocking about how silly he was able to make a lot of talented tackles look early, myself included. And but now it's just who he is, and it's what we expect now.
When you think about it, you guys essentially, unintentionally, traded a year of experience and reps of Jimmy for Nick Bosa. What kind of trade did that turn out to be for the 49ers?
It turned out, well, because we have him, and he's a dynamic player and playmaker in the NFL, and we're in the situation right now with one game left to play for a chance to go compete for a Super Bowl. So we're excited where we are right now, but I'm excited to get on the practice field too.
You overlapped with Saleh and Matt LaFleur a little bit at Central Michigan,
Yeah.
didn't you? Yeah. Do you have any memories of those two together, particularly at that time?
Not really. It was a long time ago. That was 2004. That was my sophomore year at Central Michigan. They were both offensive and defensive graduate assistants there. They were great guys, and kind of kept in contact with them throughout their journey in the NFL. But no, I don't have any little nuances or stories for you.
Joe, can you tell us about Jimmy and what he has brought to the team off the field? Maybe a story or two that says something about him off the field.
He's just a great guy. Everything that you see is who he is. He doesn't do anything for the cameras. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't have a fake persona that he shows up. It's just he's a very down-to-earth, genuine human being. Very close to his family. I mean, he's just kind of one of those guys that's a all-around good human being, good dude, and the same style of Kyle. He just kind of eats, breathes, sleeps football. The preparation and all that stuff is off the charts, and I can go on and on about him. He's just been an incredible leader, incredible player for us, and excited he's on our team.
Joe, from the NFL fans' perspective, this is such a great rivalry, the Packers-49ers. I know it's been a while, but from a player's perspective, what's your sense of history of this great rivalry?
Yeah, we've had a lot of games. We've had some big games in the playoffs and whatnot, and seem to find each other all the time during the regular season as well. So, a team that we're familiar with, and we've had a lot of great battles with, throughout the years, my playing career here. But, this is a completely new game. It's one game at a time, and we're expecting their best, and we expect to have a good physical game on Sunday.
There was a stretch in that Vikings game where Mike had a couple of plays. He gave up a sack. He had that false start that he may have wanted back. But what does that say about him that he was able to quarantine those things and be so impactful afterward that he was able to turn the page and get back to the way he normally plays?
Yeah, that's just life as an NFL player. No one really plays a 100% clean game. It's all about just taking the next play, and I thought he did a great job of, going to the sidelines and regrouping, and then came back out and played a terrific game.
So you're the only first-round pick to catch a pass, throw a pass, or run with the ball in the past 3 years.
Hmm?
You're the only first-round pick to catch a pass, throw a pass, or run the ball.
I didn't throw one.
You caught one last year.
Oh.
And
On accident. Yeah.
What does it say about the offense have that kind of success without using the high draft picks on the skill guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have very, very talented players. I mean, I think coming into the NFL, it doesn't matter where you're drafted. Time and time again, we've seen that. It's all about the work that you do here. And we have incredibly talented players that if you were to go back in the draft classes throughout history, a lot of these guys would be, top picks. So as far as where you're drafted and brought in here, it's not, not relevant. It's just about what the work you do once you're in here. And man, that's a credit to the front office and coaching staff for identifying the players that we can bring in and win with regardless of where they're picked.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Well, Emmanuel will be right in here, and then we also have the conference call with
Good behind me, NFC Championship, like that. And the trophy.
You're only used to the AFC Championship.
Exactly.
Does this week, do you sense it's ramping up here in terms of the hype and what's at stake?
Nah, I don't feel it ramping up. It's crazy. It just feels like another regular season game. I like I said, I feel like the past 4 games, even in a regular season. It was like playoff football. It was so much, pressure and us having to perform to try to get the number 1 seed that you just kind of get used to it, right? Every week's been a big week ever since I feel like, the 3rd game I've been here. So you just kind of get used to, everybody saying, oh, yeah, the pressure is here, the pressure is that. It's a big game. We got to have the biggest game if we want to do this and we want to do that. So I think it's a good thing, to have that kind of environment instead of everybody saying, oh, it's a big game this week, and then everybody, letting the pressure, take control of them. Instead, you just kind of just get used to the pressure. If that makes sense.
For some of the young guys, I'm sure nerves are just a natural thing here, right? Considering the stage you guys are on right now, how do you help some of the younger, especially receivers who really haven't been in this kind of position before?
Man, them guys, they don't know. I don't even think they know, truthfully. I'm telling you, a locker room is just so loose. I feel like we got a great core of guys. And I mean, obviously, young guys, look at Kendrick Bourne last week and how he performed and how he was even acting after he made a catch, smiling and having a good time, and then Debo making the plays. Those guys are just, they're themselves. And, I've been enjoying being around them because, they don't even feel the pressure. They don't even, know what's going on. They're just playing football and having fun. And I think that, sometimes when you get in this game at this level, you forget about the fun part of it. You take it way too serious. And, like I said, I've been enjoying being around those guys because they definitely are at the core of football, which is a game, and they make it fun. So we're going to continuously do that and have fun.
You played for some of the greatest organizations in this league, and now you're with this one and all the history here. What is it about being in this building around these former players, these current players, that could lift a team that was 4-12 a year ago to this game?
Yeah, I'm big on energy and positive energy, and if you have the right nucleus of guys around, things gonna work out. And I was watching the quarterback from LSU. He was talking about the game, the quarterback from Clemson. He was talking about the game versus LSU, and he was saying that the best team is going to win, and that usually happens. Most games. Sometimes you put it on certain players, but the best team, the best overall team is going to win. And I feel like John and Kyle, they did a great job of assembling this team and bringing in guys because we got depth. We got guys. 3 running backs. I feel like we got 5 receivers. We got depth on this team, and overall that makes us a better team. And just like I said, being in this organization and just seeing it and being a part of it, it's special. When I think about this organization, I'll never forget touching down to Seattle and seeing all those fans out there. And even though I've only been here for 5-6 weeks, to be able to poke my chest out and be like, I'm part of something special. It was amazing. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to continuously that and hopefully, go all the way to the Super Bowl and win that.
This place wasn't really known as a home stadium in its initial years. Were you feeling kind of a build of the home crowd and the home field advantage as this thing has moved on?
Yeah, especially last week. I truthfully, I've been on the road versus New Orleans versus Baltimore, and I don't know how my mind is wired. Like, I'm like that dog that if you throw a bone, I don't even think about nothing. My mind's on that. And so when I go in the stadium, sometimes I don't hear the crowd. I don't really hear anything until I get on the plane and everybody else is talking about it because I can just lock it in. I don't know if that's experience or not, but I'm sure from the opponent, I'm sure they hear the crowd because they're loud. I love this fan base. I love the energy in the crowd. I love the music in the stadium. And so I definitely think that it plays a factor. And I feel like they give us energy as well.
What do you remember about your first conference title game that you played in, and how you kind of navigated that kind of an experience?
Yeah, my first title game was in 2010. I was a rookie. We were playing against the Jets, Mark Sanchez, and we got up on them pretty good. And I remember second half just watching the clock, just run the ball, let's go to the Super Bowl. And how I handled that, I came in with Antonio Brown, and we were the young guys, we were the rookies, but we had guys like Antoine Randall and Hines Ward there to tell us. And I remember once the playoffs had started. Hines was like, all the extracurricular activities that you guys are doing, like get rid of those, get rid of the extracurricular and let's hone in on trying to do something special right now. And we were able to do that. And so, that's why I kind of tell young guys as well, let's lock in for like 2 or 3 weeks. And at the end of it, hopefully we'll be saying we're the world champs and the off season is yours. They'll be calling you champ all the way up until, next season.
Emmanuel, can you talk a little bit about Jimmy G and the fact that on the outside he doesn't seem to get a lot of credit, even though all he does is win? What do you make out of that? What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think, from that standpoint, I just think that from a team perspective, we have so many great pieces. When you talk about the defensive line, when you talk about the secondary, when you talk about the linebackers, we got depth. When you talk about the running game that we have, when you talk about the passing game, and so it's hard to just target one player and say, oh, he's the reason why they're winning. And I think that's the reason why they don't give Jimmy all the credit, because they're saying, oh, he's not the absolute reason why they're winning. We have so many different ways that we can win. But at the end of the day, where they can't say that he isn't is because he's won. He's a winner. The games that we weren't running the ball, where we had 34 yards, you'll see Jimmy go out and throw 5 touchdown passes and 400 yards. And so, I love that, that aspect that we can run the ball and pass the ball. So that's kind of why, he's not getting that credit. But he is a baller, and I'm happy he's my quarterback for sure.
And last one, guys.
You've been on championship teams, and they talk about how much the guys genuinely like each other. How important is that team chemistry when you guys genuinely, truly like each other?
It's very important. Last week, Kyle, he pretty much gave a speech to the team, and sometimes in this league, you come to work and you clock in, you clock out. And truthfully, I enjoy being around these guys. And the speech that Kyle gave was that there's so much love between this team and how much we care about each other. And I looked around, I looked at Debo, I looked at KB, I looked at, the receiver corps. I said, man, I genuinely do love these guys. It's a great group of guys to go to work with every day, a fun group of guys to go to work with. And I feel like when you have that kind of chemistry, and it's all throughout this team, all throughout this organization, I feel like when you have that, the sky is the limit. And so we're not in this position. It's not a coincidence, We worked our butt off on the field and off the field, and I feel like we're deserving of this moment, and we got to take advantage of it.
All right. Thanks, Emmanuel. Thanks, guys. We'll bring you out to practice shortly.